First things first, zooming in. So basically, if I were to explain this real quick for those of you who are new to the stream, top left corner, we've got daily profiles. Top right corner, we've got composites. Top left are monthly composites. Top of or down right, bottom right, down right, whatever you want to call it like that. We've got weekly composites, all right? And we're going to be starting off with a simple daily profile. Now, when we opened up the day, right here, we opened up within a 2-day composite. Now that 2-day composite is derived from these previous 2 days merged together. That gives us a 2-day composite. And it is also the reason why I said in one of my previous posts on Twitter that we have poor lows there, right? We have poor lows. We got a poor high intraday. And I said, for as long as we're trading below these poor lows and we start to close back above the lows right there, I was leaning towards more upside if there was a decent reaction, right? We didn't get it. In fact, we just single printed it back within the 2-day composite, and no surprise that it is being capped by that 2-day composite value area low. And we are now basically bracketing between the extremes of the 2-day composite value area high and the 2-day composite value area low. That's it. Simple as that. I do not need to overcomplicate it. We're bracketing within a previous 2-day composite. These 2 days merged together, all right? We can clearly see that visual here where I've got the 2-day composite merged, right? Nice thick distribution here, point of control in the middle, and we're seeing buyers stepping in at the 2-day composite. Now, make no mistake that if we start to break below that 2-day composite, it's going to be a steep drop. And I do believe that when we do so, we're taking out this low at least, right? And then we'll have to see what level we have down here. But for now, it is support. Do I think that it's a proper low? Not really. I would prefer to see a bit more access below this low and then we can see what's happening next, right? So there's that on the daily. Now, if we're going to be taking a brief look on the weekly, right here, we've got this right here. This is the value area high from a weekly composite. Now, what did the market do? The market opened up above the composite. Then we saw, a large amount of downward pressure. And then we even accepted back within the composite. Now, how can I determine whether or not we got a genuine shifting condition or if this is real acceptance back within previously established value? In my opinion, this was the tell sign where we had some time and space here. We had a high. And then, this is enough indication to me that we are genuinely accepting back within that weekly composite. And then, we saw that spike upwards. No surprise that it is being capped by that composite value area high, and we're getting a downward rotation again. We have a naked value area low right there. We do have some more anomalies resting below, but short term, this is bearish, right? And, as long as this entire region with the single prints is capping upside, I'm leaning bearish on Bitcoin, right? I do think that this is a bearish retest, and we might be seeing a sweep of that lows pretty soon. Another thing that I want to point out here is that if we're taking a brief look here, at the bottom left, we've got a 2-month composite. Now, what does that mean? It means that I've merged the previous 2 months together because they had overlapping value. What does that mean? Well, the monthly values look like this, where we get 1 month here, value area high, value area low. And then we got another month right there, value area low, value area high. Obviously, there is a 50% or more value overlap between these 2 months. So we can merge those 2 months together. That gives me this profile. Why is this important? It is important because we opened up the month above the 2-month composite value area high. If Bitcoin would have been bullish, we needed to see 62K hold as support for continuation higher. What did we do? We spiked above that previous intra-month high, and now we're trading back below the value area high again. So as long as you're trading below 62K, we need to be expecting downward pressure on Bitcoin, right? So again, this is a bearish development. If we were to take everything and put it here within the prep, what did we just discuss? Well, market profile, the daily is rotational within what? Within a 2-day composite. It's the previous 2 days merged together where value area low is support, value area high is resistance. We have cleaned up the poor lows that we've just, if you go back on my Twitter page, you can see that I was mentioning the poor lows. We've cleaned them up. There's no reason to go back towards them, right? Because we're trading below them. But I do want to be aware of that. So we clean up the poor lows and we have acceptance back within a 2-month value area high, and we also have acceptance within the 2-month value area high and the weekly composite. So these two are both bearish shifts in condition, where we were imbalanced up based on the month and the weekly, but we're accepting back within previous value, and that's not something that I'm a big fan of when looking for longs. So what else? We have a 2-month point of control around 59k. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to go towards that pivot. Let me just show you. I'm referring to this point of control because one of the rules of market dynamics is that whenever we accept back within previously established value, we can expect a rotation towards the opposite extreme. That means we might be seeing some upside, and then we're getting continuation lower towards point of control first, and then we'll have to determine if this is a solid reaction or if we're going to be breaking below that, and at that point we're going to go towards 55k, right? Which is pretty bad if you were to ask me. So yeah, that being said, I think it's time to we've debated everything about market profile, so I want you to take a brief look here at the longer term VWAPs as well. Moving back towards VWAP. If you're new, top left, yearly, top right, quarterly value, bottom right, monthly value, bottom left is the weekly value, all right? So starting off on the yearly. What's the yearly telling me? The yearly is telling me at this point that, and let's get a bit more of that yearly value into the picture. So previous interactions were yearly VWAP, right? This is yearly VWAP, yearly VWAP. This is that standard deviation. I can't write for shit with this, but standard deviation 1. And then we've got standard deviation 2. No, not 2, -1. This is basically saying it's overbought. This is basically saying it's oversold. This is a great mean reversion trade. This as well. Anything in the middle is basically considered chop. So you don't really want to be positioning yourself around it unless there's a decent structure to go with it. And in this case, I think the down close candle here, before we broke back above yearly VWAP, combined with the fact that we do have a low there, makes a pretty good case of at least a short-term low. So that means from a yearly perspective, if we're getting one final drive lower into daily demand here and then close the day back above yearly VWAP, that's going to be a pretty good trade, at least for the short term, for a mean reversion higher, similar to what we saw right here, right? So that trade will be probably spike into that daily demand, close above VWAP, then retest the 2-month value area high again, and then we'll see what happens next, right? If you're like, oh shit, what is he talking about? I don't really understand anything of it. Just wait until the end of this stream because I'll have everything in a single chart, basic price action, so you'll get along with it as well, right? But for now, stick with it. Moving towards quarterly. Right here, the quarterly paints a pretty clear picture as well, where this is the previous quarterly value area high, this is previous quarterly value VWAP, and this is the previous quarterly value area low. When the new quarter started, we were rotational between quarterly value area high, quarterly VWAP, right? This was the range. No matter if you're looking at macro environment, no matter what you're doing, right, you will still see that a quarterly value caps downside and upside majority of the time. And when there's a shift in condition based on the quarterly, that's usually going to be the next trend for a while. But for now, we are basically rotational within the upper half of that quarterly value. Bitcoin was unable to accept below previous quarterly VWAP, which means that we were trading higher. It was unable to accept above previous quarterly value area high on this candle, right? Then it accepted back below previous month value area high, which I will show you in a bit as well. That got capped by this high. I'll show you that. And now we're basically front running or consolidating around the same structure. Now, usually I would say, if let's assume that this was a low like that, spike it, then start trading back above, then retest it, take out this low. And then, at that point I would be like, well, this could be a quality long entry here. But now, considering that we have such a blunt low here with all of these stacked lows, I'm not too certain that once we start trading below this low, that it is going to be, just a relatively shallow sweep followed by continuation higher. I think if we're getting it, we're likely to take out this low into, moving back towards the left side, yearly VWAP, right? And you'll see in a bit how this all lines up. So on the quarterly, I'd say, yes, we're reaching into support. So am I going to be looking for shorts down here? No, I'm not. I'm going to be waiting until we're either going to be sweeping that low, get a reversion, take out the high into supply, and then look for shorts towards that low again. Or I'm going to be looking for longs confluent with that yearly VWAP. But all in all, I think shorting down here isn't necessarily your best bet, right? So moving towards the monthly, right here, remember how I said that we had that previous quarterly, I need to draw that right. We had that previous quarterly value high, somewhere around here, right? 64K-ish. This was the first sign that Bitcoin was, unable to accept back above a very important price point. Once the market then accepted back below previous month value, which is this right here, right? Value area high. We had what? Remember what I discussed during the beginning of the stream, when we have time and space between the retests. Look at the interaction there to the tick, right? And this is that confirmation that you shouldn't really be looking for longs anymore unless we start, we're getting a sweep below these lows into another contextual level, then reclaim it. But short term, this is the first sign that we're going lower. This is the second sign that we're heading lower, right? And now we're even trading back below the developing value area low right there. What's the likely destination based on the monthly? Well, similar to the quarterly, we are rotational between value area high and the VWAP. So I'd say there's a pretty decent case that if we do start sweeping this low, that we reach previous month VWAP, and then all in all, we want to see a reclaim of a certain level to get actual long, or to think, all right, well, we do have a proper low, we can look for some mean reversion. Moving back towards the weekly. Now, the weekly is good for short-term buys. I don't really use it that much within taking a broader overview of where we are within the markets. But as you can see right here, once we swept into that quarterly resistance right there, we accepted back within previous week value, right? So this is how it all comes together. The first sign was rejection at quarterly value area high. Second sign was acceptance back within previous week value, rejected there, right? Second sign. The third sign was right there. We rejected at previous month value area high, confluent with weekly VWAP, right? And then from that point on, if we take a look at the previous interactions, right, at the weekly developing value area low, there is a clear sign of an imbalanced down market, right? So this is bearish, bearish, bearish. Where do we go? The final destination, which is previous week value area low, right? So that being said, if we're going to be, is it over? Well, I don't necessarily think it is over. And let me show you why. If we're taking all of the information that we've just gathered based on VWAP, and we go towards a very simplistic chart, there's no price action levels here. We could do it, but there's just 3 levels of interest for me. And that is based on a 5-month composite value area low confluent with the most recent 2-day composite, right? If you go back towards TPO, let me just show you. We have a 2-day value area high right there, around 61.6K, right? We have a weekly composite there as well, right? Which is kind of confluent with that 2-day composite. So these two levels are based on market profile combined with a 5-month composite. Let me just zoom in a bit more for you guys. Means that anything below this area, anything below that, we have an up close candle here, right? If you're a price action trader, bearish order block, we traded below. What do we have here? We've got a fair value gap, right? We filled it in slightly from this candle towards that candle, so bit of a rebalance there. But all in all, I'd say above this is up. Below the 5-month value area low is down. So what's the range that we're currently trading within? If you filter out all of the noise, I'd say we are now bracketing between 61.6K, which is the 5-month value area low. This is our bearish line in the sand, right? We're looking for shorts on our retest. So let's say that, we spike that low, and then we try to reclaim that again, right? And then we fail to do so. This can be a shorting opportunity, right? But until then, I'm not going to be looking for shorts down here. Why is that? It is because we're trading at previous quarterly VWAP. And there's, we can see previous interactions. Yes, there's a chance that we start breaking down from this point on. However, from a risk to reward standpoint, for me personally, I have no interest in shorting quarterly support, right? So I think that's just a shitty approach of thinking, well, what if we break lower? Well, there will be another trade, right? For me, the best trade in this case is waiting until we get a retest of that 5-month value area low, looking for shorts there, and then we can target lower prices. What I wanted to see today is that we had unemployment claims and we had CPI. Unfortunately for us, CPI came in a bit hotter than expected, which is why we're getting downside within the market. If it was cooler than expected, I would have anticipated a move upwards into the 5-month value low where, the real test would have been. But now we're seeing weakness due to the data points. In this case, should there be a sweep of that previous quarterly VWAP? And let's move towards an hourly chart. In this case, right? Should there be a sweep of this low into the previous quarterly VWAP? And then we get, for example, an hourly close above. That will be sufficient for me to think we might be up for a retest of that 5-month value area low, right? If you're familiar with high volume bars, ideally I would want to see a 30-minute high volume bar with a point of control at the lower ends. If you're trading order flow and you want to take a look at the 30-minute chart on Excel charts, what you want to see is you want to see a candle that heads lower. Then you want to see an increase in sell volume right there. And then finally, we need to see a close back above that cluster, because that's an indication where, and ideally it goes accompanied with an increase in open interest, because that means there are people shorting into a fresh low with anticipation that we're heading lower. And then once we close above their pain point, right, there will be a certain threshold where these guys will want to cover. Now, what do they do when they cover their shorts? They buy back, which means that we're going up. All right. So that's one trade. The other trade for me would be leave these lows like they are and then try and reclaim the 5-month value area low. If we can do that, sure, I'll look for longs. But until then, I think this combined with the fair value gap there is a solid resistance for, maybe a spike upwards, and then we're getting that sell off lower, right? So that's another trade. And then to finalize everything, let's get rid of that. If we genuinely are going to be sweeping the lows, we've got one big level here. We've got, if you're familiar with ICT, right? We've got an up close candle right there. Before we took out a low, then we went upwards, right? We didn't really break it cleanly like this candle. So it isn't necessarily a breaker. I would more so say that this could be a bullish mitigation level, or, I don't really know what terms he have dubbed all of these rotations. But for me, it's support. We do have a low there. We have the 2-month point of control, and we've got the yearly VWAP right there at 59K. So worst case, and where, in my opinion, the real last resort for bulls will be, is when we start trading below this low and then into yearly VWAP confluent with a 2-month point of control. If we're getting this, right, spike it, take out this low into this H4 breaker, and then we need to close, right? Remember this, I need to see a close above this, right? When we close above, at that point, I genuinely think that we could be setting up for a low and a potential retest of 61.6, right? And why am I not saying that if we're sweeping this low, we're going to go towards that high? Well, I'm more so of trading like what's currently within the market. The market is telling me that we're failing to hold a 5-month value area low of support. This is a big ass resistance. It's 5 months merged together with a value area low as resistance. So even if we sweep this low and we start trading upwards, don't be too stubborn thinking I'm in a generational entry right there. Even if we reject it should be fine, because for all we know, we could be getting that rotation there, really nice profits, but then reject and then start going lower again, right? So trade what is in front of you. And I think with that, we can conclude today's stream in terms of what I'm expecting. I want to ask you guys if everything is clear. If the format that we use is clear, if the visuals are clear on your phone, because I'm streaming in 2K, so let me know if that's okay as well. And, you know, I think we shouldn't really overcomplicate things as they are. There are a couple of trades here. We're either going to be sweeping this low and then reclaiming it for a reversion back towards the 5-month value area low, right? Or we're going to go much deeper. And at that point, this right here, I'd say roughly 59K is it for me. That's if we start trading below that, let me show you why. If we start trading below that, look what happened previously. Right here. Yearly value. To highlight the importance of yearly VWAP. Support, rotation back towards value area high. Support, at least some sort of a reversion. We could be setting up for something similar, right? But still, support. Resistance, right? Sell off once we start to accept back below yearly VWAP again. Where do we go? All the way down here, right? Now, I don't necessarily say that we're going to go back towards 50K, but for me, considering that, look at the interaction here, right? That's a base. That's a solid base. So if we're going to be bullish, you know, maybe spike and then reclaim. But if we start to accept back below, well, at that point, I don't know, man. Yeah, and we also got the Bybit competition, right? And that has historically been like there was a tweet somewhere from somebody. I don't recall his name, but there was a tweet where, you know, it was a great tweet because you could see the similarities between price action of the competition. You know, it's just make no mistake that when a lot of people load up $100 accounts and they slide up the leverage towards 100x, trying to get, you know, the best returns, it's going to skew how Bitcoin trades. And, you know, it is something to be aware of. But for me personally, I know from my system, this is a level that I want to be paying attention to. For me, my system is based on high volume bars, order flow, and looking at those type of things, right? If you're a price action trader, look for your normal entries around 60.2K. Look for your normal entries around 61.6K, right? I'm just giving you a blueprint on where I expect the market to react. I expect it to be around previous quarterly VWAP. If it doesn't, we're likely getting a thick 30-minute bar close down here or something. Then we're getting the next. And that means that you're going to be looking for your entry points right there, right? Don't go on the 1-minute chart. Stick to 30-minute time frame and then remain patient, right? What exactly did you mean? We broke the 5-month. We broke the 5-month value low more times, right? Yeah, so we did it more times. But why is it important? It's important because I think it's this one. It's important because if you take a look at the previous interactions here, right? Let me just close out the drawings. If I were to show you only this chart, we rejected at the point of control of that 5-month, right? Of this big consolidation. Resistance, 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 deviation. Every time that we failed to hold this, it led to a big drop lower, right? And now that we finally saw a decent time and space back within that value, right? We saw it reclaim again, and now we're trading below it again. That's why it's so important. Because unable to reclaim this, and we're heading lower. So this is the 5-month, and then we also have a 2-month composite right here. You know, this is showing the let's just go towards an H4. So basically, the previous 2 months merged together. We're failing to hold this as support. We're now trading back within. What's the likely destination? If I were to treat this similar to a daily profile, weekly profile, monthly profile, whatever, or just as a plain daily TPO profile, if I were to draw this out for you guys, right? This would be high and low. Then we've got the distribution. And then we have a point of control extended throughout time, right? Naked point of control for all our TPO traders. We've got lows. We're unable to accept back above value area high, right? This is value area high. This is value area low. As per law of market dynamics, what do we need to be expecting? Well, we need to expect that as long as we trade back within this previously established value, price will want to trade towards the opposite extreme, right there. Does that mean that we're heading towards, where is it, 56K? No. Why is that? Because there's also a single rule based on the laws of market dynamics that whenever there's a strong reaction of the point of control, it basically neglects, or not sure if I pronounce that properly, but it basically means that we no longer have to follow the prior rule that it wants to reverse the entire value area, right? So we're either going to be seeing a really strong reaction at that point of control, confluent with yearly VWAP, or we're breaking lower. And at that point, it's 55, 56K, okay? And that's it. Let's conclude the live stream here. I want to thank everybody for their time. And we're going to be doing another one this weekend. But I just figured to do a quick update for you guys so you guys know what I'm looking at personally, what you want to be seeing, where you want to be trading. And with that, peace and love, guys. See you.